foaming at the funnel. There's a dairy beside Thomas's branch line at the station where the lines divide to go either to the harbor or to the junction. Every afternoon, the special tanker wagons are pushed into the dairy siding. They're filled with milk, and Percy takes them to the junction on his first train every morning. Thomas explained this to Wilbert.
There's a hosepipe thing which puts the milk into the tankers.
Sounds easy enough.
Thomas told him a great many other details too. Wilbert listened carefully, trying hard to remember all of them.
They'll be ready by the time you get there for the first train.
Okay.
The milk must also be handled with care while delivering them to the junction. Oh, and there's also...
Next day, he enjoyed himself. He was a much more powerful engine than Percy, so he found that he could cope easily with Percy's trains. The freight cars behaved well too, which was a help.
Don't upset him.
You'll never know what he'll do to get his own back.
One day, Wilbert took loaded stone cars to the harbor. On his way with the empty ones, he stopped at the station by the dairy and pushed the empty cars into a siding.
There we go. And now these.
He left them and set out towards the junction, pulling just a few vans.
Right, I'll leave these vans at the junction and bring the empty tankers back. Then, when those are out of the dairy siding, I'll take the stone trucks to the top station.
They met James at the junction. James knew who Wilbert was, of course, and asked how he was getting on. Wilbert chatted excitedly about the jobs he had been given to do that day.
It's going lovely. We didn't have jobs like this back on the Dean Forest.
Sounds as if you're enjoying yourself. But take my advice. It's best to take things slowly at first.
And he puffed away. Wilbert continued his journey and reached the dairy section easily, but his fireman was worried about water.
We should have filled up at the junction, but you were too busy chatting to James. Never mind, we'll get water here.
Very well, driver.
The tankers were at the end of the train, so all Wilbert had to do was push them into the dairy siding. Then he drew forward and stopped beside the hose pipe. And he put the hose into Wilbert's tank.
Just in time.
Ah.
As he turned the tap, the driver spoke to him.
Did you remember which hose pipe was which?
The fireman went to reply, but when he returned, he found that Wilbert had stopped at the wrong hose pipe. His tank was full, but not with water, with milk.
Marty? I think we have a problem.
With what?
That...
Driver, this doesn't feel like water.
You'll be foaming at the funnel if any of this gets in the boiler!
Why is it always me?
Call for help, Jones, while I go shut off steam.
Fine.
Quickly, they put out Wilbert's fire and the fireman telephoned for help.
I feel weird.
I know you do, but at least Thomas is here to take you back to the sheds.
Thomas came as soon as he could, and pulled Wilbert back to the top station.
Don't worry, Wilbert. We'll be back at the sheds in no time.
Thank you, Thomas.
Wilbert's tank was emptied, and was given a thorough clean. Next morning he was quite all right indeed. Thomas laughed.
You and Percy make a fine pair. He had the porridge, and you had the milk.
Yeah, very funny.
It's okay, Wilbert. Everybody gets mixed up in a situation like this. And now you and Percy have a story to share.